first. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of our Tech Tuesday webinar series. I am joined today by Brian Barnes, the CTO here at Coretech Services. Brian has prepared a presentation here today, but before he gets to this great content, a couple of quick housekeeping items for you. As always, we are recording today's session, and we'll be making that available to you so that you can watch it, whether you want to go back or if you're watching it for the first time on demand, always doing that for you. And we'll also be making the presentation available too, so that as we send out the recording, if you want to reference the slides that Brian's going through here today, you'll be able to do that as well. In addition, we do have the Q&A function enabled in the Teams Live event. This event is going to run a little bit over. Brian has a lot of great content for us to go over, but it does mean that we will be a little short on time. So if you do have any questions, still, please feel free to submit those using the Q&A feature, and I will follow up with you with the answers to your questions should you have any along the way. That's it for all the boring stuff, Brian. Happy to turn it over to you and let you walk through the presentation.
Great, thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that, and yeah, really excited today to share the content that we prepared for you for hyperconvergence infrastructure, as well as tying to the public clouds. So the agenda that we'll tackle today is really, what is HCI, the current HCI leaders, and a high-level comparison, and then dig deeper into the three top solutions around Microsoft, VMware, and Nutanix. So real quick on presenter information. So again, my name is Brian Barnes, CTO at Coretech, really focused on driving cloud-based hybrid solutions to our customers to achieve both cloud agility as well as the effectiveness of infinite scale. So a lot of the solutions that we drive as an organization are built around our smart solutions, which I'll get into a little bit later. And then I do speak at a number of conferences across the country, hoping to return back to the new normal very soon. But some of those are, of course, Citrix Synergy, Next, VMworld, as well as a lot of healthcare-focused and CI Summit-focused types of speaking engagements. So real quickly, what is HCI, and why are companies looking to adopt it in terms of their strategic solutions for on-premise environments? So really what, we drive into conversations around traditional converged or hyperconverged are the complexities that the traditional or legacy three-tier architectures presented to IT through the course of, the 2000s and into 2010, 2015. And really around the adoption rates of hyperconverged around the complexities that those converged infrastructures presented. And really what hyperconverged infrastructure is really the integrated software components that make up both storage, compute, networking, and advanced management capabilities. And as we look towards the collapsing of that tier, I have a few examples I would like to show. So some of the issues that legacy three-tier architecture presented are really the different layers of technologies that the IT organizations had to build skill sets around. Not only were we adopting in the early 2000s and mid-2000s different EUC-based strategies, as well as driving into a lot of virtualization strategies, we also were supporting different types of compute architectures, the storage area networks that we were building, as well as the network environments that we were building for NAS-related capabilities, fiber channel switching, very expensive, as well as the physical storage controllers. And really what that presented is not only difficult troubleshooting the different tiers in terms of performance, but creating the skill sets needed in managing those skill sets for those larger based environments. And really what hyperconverged did is it collapsed the traditional compute and storage tiers initially. And then what that's really driven is a consolidation of a lot of what we've been doing around hardware networking and storage area networking administration. And as you started collapsing those three-tier architectures, you built a more appliance-based approach to virtualization, as well as tackling a lot of the security challenge for the overall organization. And as we push that down into the overall architecture, we've collapsed a lot of that administration complexity into single-based or multi-panes of glass GUIs that we manage those environments with today. Really, outside of defining what hyperconverged is, I prepared a kind of elevation or evolution, if you will, of how the different hyperconverged solutions were in 2018 and how they stand today. And you see with the Forrester examples here is that VMware and Nutanix have stayed relatively in the leader and stronger strategy quadrants for over the course of the last 2 years. But you actually see a rise in Microsoft where they weren't even a contender in 2018. They are now pushing into stronger performers. And really, it's a building up of an Azure-based strategy that I wanted to cover today, along with both Nutanix and VMware and the strengths of those solutions. As we look also at Gartner's Magic Quadrant, we see in 2019, Microsoft was on the map and stayed relatively in the same place they were then today. And so we see Nutanix and VMware fighting for those two top spots, and Microsoft really starting to push more towards the visionary strategies with how they're adopting into the public cloud vision. So today, as a ranking, Nutanix, VMware, and Microsoft as number 3 is kind of what I'm going to cover today. Digging right into the Microsoft solution and what hyperconvergence is and playing into the public cloud, Microsoft solutions break out into 3 separate types of hybrid-based cloud solutions: Azure Stack Hub, Azure Stack HCI, or Azure Stack Edge. Hub are for cloud-native integrated environments, as well as potentially disconnected cloud environments that you might see running on a cruise ship or something that's disconnected from the cloud. Azure Stack HCI is really a hyper-converged solution that's really built off of Storage Spaces Direct, as well as Server 2019, and would fit more into that tiered solution that would be comparative to a Nutanix or a VMware. And then from Edge cloud managed appliances, when you get into different IoT and machine learning models, have those applications as well. But what we're going to focus on today from a Microsoft solution is really what Azure Stack HCI is and how it attaches into the cloud. So as we look at the different Azure platform family choices, we can see that as we move from left to right in towards Azure Hub, and Azure HCI, there's different use cases that can be applied as part of that go-to-market strategy. And as people have leveraged the public cloud environments to bring both agility and scale capabilities, automation capabilities, they also want to leverage those public cloud architectures to now start to manage their on-premise environments as well. And this is where some of the Azure Stack HCI solutions reign, definitely more in line with some of those adoption strategies for Azure. As you can see at the bottom, there's a few different nuances based upon the hardware configuration that you can make. But you can also pay in different Azure Stack HCI solutions based upon the number of cores that you allocate, as well as the different industry standard hardware that you can adopt as part of your hybrid cloud strategy for Microsoft. Some of the Azure Stack HCI solutions both bridge the gap between public and private cloud and connecting into Azure for native offsite backup, disaster recovery, and cloud-based monitoring. But it also drives into more of a scalable virtualization and storage tier, also great for remote branch offices and high-performance workloads. Things like EUC, as well as different AI and ML models using Kubernetes and other AKS-based services for Azure. As we look at the life cycle or the comprehensive aspect of Microsoft's solution, obviously, Azure Stack and Azure Stack HCI tie natively into Azure-based services. They also are key on focusing across the data, networking, identity, and security and management tiers of the overall infrastructure. And as you start collapsing that into an HCI strategy, a lot of our customers are adopting Microsoft-based HCI for tackling on-premise SQL databases, as well as EUC and Kubernetes to drive in that hybrid capability of flexing onto your on-premise environments. Obviously, as you build up your strategy around Active Directory and your identity, a lot of customers are moving more towards the adoption of Azure Active Directory and building more of a cloud-native approach towards their hybrid environments. And then along with security and management, as you would expect, a lot of security features and management capabilities are being driven as part of the HCI stack. The uniqueness of Azure Stack HCI from the Microsoft solution is obviously some of the hardware solutions that are being positioned, Azure Stack HCI ready nodes being able to be bought from the OEM partner landscape. And a lot of those partnerships that you would expect, like HPE, Dell, and Lenovo, are obviously, a key focus of those solutions. But there's also some great other hardware-based solutions that are coming out from a Cisco perspective. Data on seems to be getting some, resurgence from a lot of the adoption of high-performance HPC computing that they have. And really, what a lot of customers are realizing for Azure Stack HCI is that tying directly from your on-premise environment directly to Azure is very easy. And as you would expect, building a Hyper-V cluster, leveraging in storage spaces direct, which is the ability to share that local storage of each node, and the SDN aspects of software-defined networking, that entire HCI stack can tie directly through Windows Admin Center right directly into your Azure services. And some of the same billing apparatuses that you get today for paying for Azure, you can also now pay as part of your Azure Stack HCI adoption. As I mentioned before, Windows Admin Center is kind of the glue that is positioned to manage both the on-premise Azure Stack HCI clusters, as well as managing multiple clusters as part of an Azure Stack HCI solution. And as you look across the inventory and the ability to manage that environment, you'll see some of the basic constructs or concepts of how you manage your storage tiers, your networking tiers, as well as the overall health of your Azure Stack HCI environment from the Windows Admin Center. It can be downloaded via a Microsoft site, both from the Azure Stack core image, as well as Windows Admin Center, very easy to find via Microsoft's KP sites as well. And then looking at events and driving into RBAC controls around managing users or groups that have access to those environments are built as you would expect. Obviously, the services that you can use for on-premise Azure Stack HCI and tying to Azure is some of the advantages of buying an Azure Stack HCI positioned environment. And some of the native services that you can easily enable from Windows Admin Center are things like Azure Backup, Azure Kubernetes services that can run in a hybrid environment, the ability to build up your local VMs into an Azure Site Recovery automation, or looking at syncing your files from your on-premise environment using Azure File Sync up into Microsoft Azure, as well as you would expect for any monitoring and billing. Things like cloud witnessing for SQL environments and Azure Networking Adapter, which gives you a tighter tie into L2 related workload mobility across your hybrid cloud, meaning on-premise and into the public cloud environments. Some of the key differentiators between what Microsoft Azure Stack HCI is and what it's defined as versus a Windows Server 2019 environment. This one kind of paints a very high-level, broad picture of the difference between those solutions. One of those is based upon the high-level product packaging on the left. On the right, we're showing some of the overall pricing capabilities. So as you look at Azure Stack HCI, it's basically a cloud service, which includes the on-premise operating system. Whereas when you buy and build the product from a Windows Server perspective, you're just building out the operating system. And obviously, each has their own legal and licensing apparatuses. But for the difference there, you're paying for your Windows Server 2019 license as you normally would through Open or EA. Whereas opposed for Azure Stack HCI, you're being billed based upon that Azure subscription that is attached. Also, from a pricing perspective, you can see the Azure Stack HCI on the right, the subscription-based pricing. Windows Server 2019 is usually off of a one-time license cost. Your pricing and costing your cores on the physical environments that you buy per month. And then typically in place of Windows Server 2019, you're buying it on a per core on an overall use model variable. So the MSRP cost of your Azure Stack HCI environment is $10 per core per month. And then you have the ability to, build around your enterprise license agreements or your CSP providers as part of that monthly paid service. So on the VMware side, which was number 2 on the overall HCI on the HCI, Gartner, and Forrester matrices, was a VMware-based solutions built off of combining multiple products together, which is referred to as VMware Cloud Foundations. And today I'm going to go over at a high level what VCF is and then drive into the overall cloud capabilities of that solution. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised based upon the information that you can realize as part of overall VMware Cloud Foundations roadmap strategy. So really what VCF is, it's total suite of license capabilities out of the VMware portfolio. VMware Cloud Foundations is made up of what you would expect of vSphere, vSAN, and NSX, but it also comprises all the vRealize automation and operation SKUs to give you a one cloud adoptable bundle for hybrid cloud management. It also includes both intrinsic security as well as lifecycle automation. And really the goal for this solution is driving a single seamless cloud experience for any application anywhere. And I think VMware has a really strong solution being able to adopt and fit into different multiple hybrid cloud strategies. The good thing is if you have vSphere environments today, you can really enable VCF with kind of a click of a button and license adoption. So if you look to activate some of your vSAN licensing as part of your vSphere adoption, you're merging in the HCI infrastructure, or your first step towards HCI infrastructure adoption, bridging the gap between compute and virtual storage tiers. And then minimally, you have those existing vCenter and vSphere web client administration capabilities or skill sets. So managing this environment today with vSAN for already those customers that have adopted VMware is a really easy uplift for those skills. And really having that single common management platform for both storage and compute has boded well for a lot of further capacity adds for VMware type of customers. And really that first step to on-prem to cloud is really taking your VCF environment and then bridging the gap towards virtualizing the network with NSX, and then also being able to automate all of the self-service and policy orchestration as part of your VCF environment. So this will obviously, create the ability or enable you as an organization to meet the hybrid challenges that you would have both today and tomorrow as part of your hybrid cloud adoption. And with the increase of both NSX and VCF for the automation pieces using vRealize automation and operations, you'll also have a lot of the cloud adoption strategies to build that true hybrid cloud management infrastructure. And at the highest level, you can see all of the different software components that are made up of VMware Cloud Foundations. Of course, on the left, you have cloud management, managing all of your compute, storage, and networking environment, using VCF to drive lifecycle automation, both using that same native tool set for your public cloud as well as the private. But you're also getting all the other software components that you would realize as part of your vRealize adoption. So looking at a single SKU to do all of the automation, network insight, operations, as well as log and different vRealize business advantages, you can see that total software package driving a lot of capability for those customers. One of the key aspects to bridging your layer 2, layer 3 environments from on-premise into the cloud is being able to extend layer 2 to the public cloud. And using NSX Hybrid Connect, you can have the ability to extend your networking environments from legacy vSphere your current legacy vSphere environments to a more agile VMware Cloud Foundations, allowing you to drive into your public cloud adoption, right? So really the goal there and the key is that all the things that you would expect to be able to do on-premise, you can expect and realize inside of your public cloud adoption as well, including vMotion, being able to extend layer 2 VLANs, as well as being able to do all the things from your legacy environment to your cloud foundation. One of the biggest advantages of VMware Cloud Foundations is being able to leverage any cloud. And some of the things that prohibit Microsoft HCI solution stack are some of the things that jettison or create larger capabilities for VCF. And part of this is being able to adopt a multi-cloud strategy. A lot of enterprise customers leverage, Azure for Microsoft-based workloads. They have development teams or development environments that might prefer AWS, or they might be using GCP for some other related cloud activities. But regardless of where that workload sits or remains as part of a cloud adoption strategy, true hybrid agility is made up of how to move those workloads around in different types of public clouds. And this is probably one of the stronger solutions to be able to do that with, especially when you start looking at next generation management of containers, Kubernetes, Docker, the different things around automating application workloads and immutable infrastructure that a lot of organizations are working aggressively to automate. The flexibility of the solution also drives its capability along all of that public cloud adoption and the different things that you would expect as part of a single platform managing both on-premise and public cloud environments. That unified management of compute and storage is a critical aspect of VCF. There's multiple different management planes to enact with as part of a VCF adoption. Typically, you'll manage part of the environment in one area and a different part in another. But bringing in that same vCenter, VCF capability across your public cloud and managing those workloads out of any location is a goal for a lot of automation effort and DevOps capabilities, a part of a lot of enterprise organizations today. And so creating that seamless architecture across a single landscape remains to be one of the critical focuses for cloud mature customers today. And we see a lot of VMware Cloud Foundations discussions leading towards hybrid cloud solutions using VCF as well as multiple third-party clouds. Lastly, I wanted to spend a little bit of time on Nutanix. Nutanix is kind of the company that created hyperconvergence and really drove the market to what it was today. Coretek has seen a lot of success, both from Nutanix, VMware, and Microsoft. But one of the things that we realize mostly out of Nutanix is the simplicity and how to attack both your on-premise environments from a simplistic management interface, as well as how to tap into public cloud strategies as part of a Nutanix overall strategy. And there are some key differences that I want to go over. One of them is the simplicity of something called AOS. And AOS is the means of what it takes to drive your storage, the different virtualization choices, and a single plane of management called Prism for your HCI environment. And a lot of that simplistic architecture as part of that Nutanix AOS stack comes from that HCI management, built off of REST and being able to manage your holistic environment off of one single management plane is something that a lot of our customers have really come to appreciate. The flexibility of choice of virtualization has been another key driver for Nutanix success. A lot of customers that adopted Nutanix early on, what I would say, 2014, 15, were ESX customers with large vSphere environments. And for some workloads, they have chose to deprecate or move away from vSphere and drive more towards a native Nutanix virtualization choice called Acropolis or AHV. So, but it still offers the flexibility to manage that both from a Hyper-V, VMware, or native AHV environment, as well as being able to supply a lot of different hardware choices. And so when you look at those different hardware choices, obviously you would expect Nutanix with their NX platform would have something out of the box that both management and support come from the same company. With Nutanix, a lot of our customers have went and stayed NX for the kind of one throat to choke aspects of managing their hardware environments and support channels through a single vendor. Some are very comfortable with their Dell, Cisco, HPE, Lenovo, or IBM solutions. And in each one of those cases or categories, each hardware vendor has their own Nutanix SKU that they're driving with their platform. So regardless of hardware choice, Nutanix is a good fit. really the strength, one of the key strengths of Nutanix is its flexibility to choose. We kind of covered, the choice around whether you stay AHV from a hypervisor or move into different third-party hypervisors like VMware, Hyper-V, or Citrix. And we have customers that really have used the gambit of those and chose them based upon cost or based upon the complexity or capabilities they need in that environment. They'll choose the hypervisor that makes the most sense for them. Also, we covered kind of the platform of choice, whether you're a Dell customer today or an HPE customer, you can retain those that hardware skill set based upon management, but really move into more of a Nutanix simplicity as part of managing those different storage and networking apparatuses as part of a cloud management plan. But most importantly is also, like VMware, having a cloud direction of choice. Whether you use Nutanix-based cloud services where you can tap into Nutanix-based clusters directly from Prism, you can also attach directly into AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud Platform or GCP. So giving you that freedom of choice around any cloud adoption strategy you have is a key advantage of Nutanix being able to drive that deeper. This is one of the things that sometimes VMware customers struggle with. It's something called vendor lock-in. They're buying their solutions from Dell, using VMware, and there's no decision of choice that are made there as well. So for the most part, you can't run different hypervisors on a vSphere environment or a VCF environment. Everything's going to be VMware. So for some customers, they like the ability to choose. And as you would expect with any HCI environment, it's very simple to scale. Whether you have traditional performance-based nodes, adding a storage-heavy node would increase the capacity of storage, as you would expect. Adding, storage-only nodes would only gain that capacity only quicker. And if you needed an all-flash nodes for IOP performance or additional cores, you can mix and match the node types based upon different hardware platforms as well as different processor platforms to give you the total overall scale and capacity you would need. So out of Nutanix, that does seem to scale the best in terms of the most options that you have, as well as separating your clusters for compute heavy or single clusters for managing holistic environments together. Some of the key architectural highlights is, from a scale-out architecture perspective, it does scale linearly. It has a lot of advantages of self-heal from failure. And we've seen rebuild times be the fastest of the solutions that we've tested for Nutanix-based clusters. Also, fine-grained metadata enables dynamic data placement and management. So some of the things that you would expect around these solutions and the enterprise features of hyperconvergence are there with Nutanix. And how Nutanix guarantees a lot of their performance characteristics around data locality. The data that's being accessed from a node is always local to that node. Whereas in other solutions, you could be crossing the network boundary to access that across the network. So data locality is a critical feature that I think has gained Nutanix a lot of popularity from a performance perspective. Also being performance optimized. So from a data path perspective, whether accessing NVMe or OPAIN local reads and consistent low latency, a lot of the read-write behavior that you have as part of the Nutanix platform seems to be better optimized as part of a strategy of adoption for Nutanix over the competitors, and guaranteeing protected writes. So writes are always replicated even in failure states. So that has a lot to do with the architecture of Nutanix and the witnessing aspects of that. A lot of customers also look at Nutanix for different levels or choices. And we didn't cover this too much in the others, but VMware has obviously different levels as well. But a lot of customers usually start on that Pro or Ultimate tiers because they're looking to be able to scale a little bit more aggressively. They need better performance and efficiency, or looking at better security and data protection. So we see a lot of times those solutions driving a better need for overall capability up into the Ultimate stack. The great thing with Nutanix is they spend a lot of time being validated on a lot of the most complex environments and high-performing environments to date. One of the things that we see quite regularly is some of inside the healthcare space, Epic being run as part of a Citrix strategy or VMware strategy. and being able to manage those workloads from a hyperconvergence perspective. Nutanix was one of the, if not the first one, to be validated in some of those higher use environments for HCI, as well as you would expect, VDI, remote branches, being cloud native using Chef and Puppet, Docker, and Kubernetes, as well as driving into a bigger data and analytics around databases, things like Splunk, Hadoop, SQL, Oracle, and MySQL. So definitely flexible, as well as the other solutions to drive all the business workload that you need. One of the great things about Nutanix, and kind of what I started this section with, is the simplicity to manage. And so with some of the other environments, you're managing different aspects of it with different panes of glass. Whether you're managing a server, an application, a storage, you could be accessing that with variable different windows from an administrator. With Nutanix, you're managing everything through one, which is your Prism dashboard, or Prism Central. And from this single view, you can manage the holistic aspects of the cluster without jumping into other panes of glass to be able to do that. And the good thing is that the simplistic management and ease of implementation gives a lot of ROI and TCO advantages to drive quicker into the adoption of whatever project you're working on. So sometimes when we see some of those validated design configurations take 3 months to get on the floor, we've seen Nutanix environments get spun up in 2 to 3 weeks once hardware arrives. So very, very easy to adopt and manage from an overall HCI platform. Again, kind of tying back to that simplistic overview, is they also patch and upgrade their LCM as part of their overall cross-vendor support around what they do best in patching that complete environment. So whether you're looking at lifecycle management, doing complete stack upgrades, and you have 16 nodes in a pod, and you need to upgrade all 16 nodes. There's fully automated ways to be able to do that, both from a firmware, hypervisor, and software perspective. And also upgrading the tools of your actual VM workloads of those clusters. So really doing a lot of dependency mapping and using the simplistic way of managing your entire HCI team. As we move into the cloud, the hybrid cloud discussion with Nutanix, being able to build a Nutanix cloud platform, realizing Nutanix Xi as part of a adoption for Nutanix-based clusters in the cloud, or leveraging AWS, GCP, or Azure is a clean and quick way to get most effective hybrid cloud strategies in place. And while we see a lot of traction in the Microsoft space to be able to use native HCI solutions for Azure, we see a lot of Nutanix adoption around a multi-cloud strategy, using it for Microsoft Azure, as well as certain workloads into AWS. You have the capability with that cloud platform to be able to do that. Some of that Nutanix cloud platform is built obviously around data center services with storage networking, business continuity, and DR. A lot of customers are building their DevOps services and strategy using cloud native approaches, but leveraging Nutanix on the on-premise environment to be able to do that with. Nutanix really started their name for a lot of large VDI environments where high performance was needed. And so a lot of the desktop services that we see as part of hybrid cloud adoption, whether it's using Azure Virtual Desktops and managing that in native Azure, or leveraging on-premise VDI with, let's say, a shared broker of Citrix or VMware, you're able to do that for your desktop services, as well as all of the virtualization containers and management you do for your typical hyperconverged infrastructure services. And the great thing is that with that same simplicity, you can drive things like one-click mobility to move that workload towards other third-party clouds, Nutanix's cloud, or hyperscalers on its own. Some of those use cases, obviously, are lift and shift strategies, on-demand elasticity. So a lot of our customers leverage Nutanix for its ease of scale, and then leveraging the public cloud to be able to burst into impacted zones or business value, things like storm events for energy companies, things like gathering events for large contractors that are being onboarded for projects. Being able to do that as part of your cloud-based strategy for those temporary workloads have proved very, very good, as well as building up cloud-native services and modernizing your applications away from lift and shift, but really reformatting and refactoring all of those workloads to be more cloud-native. Those are really that true hybrid multi-cloud freedom strategies that you're seeing customers drive to and adopt a part of multi-cloud. I'd be remiss to say that Microsoft has also released a product called Azure Arc. And for Azure-focused customers that are trying to build a hybrid cloud approach towards their on-premise environments, you can actually layer Azure Arc agents into your on-premise environment and manage via cloud-native platform inside of Azure. And so we have a lot of customers that are looking towards Azure Arc in terms of their cloud-native trajectory and managing their on-premise environments out of the native management capabilities of Azure. So Arc seems to be a great add-on component to really start building and running and maintaining all of your containers and data services and VM workloads on-premise and managed in the cloud. A quick note on Coretech as we kind of wrap today. Coretech is one of the first 8 onboarded Azure expert MSPs. We've given a lot of focus and intent to build this part of our business and drive this practice forward into being one of the best Microsoft Azure partners in the US. We are number 1 in terms of CSP, as well as a lot of the cloud native direction that we've given to our customers and their cloud journey approaches. Headquartered in Michigan, we have sales, delivery consultants pretty much across the country and drive a lot of high-level enterprise cloud projects for Microsoft, as well as our partners across that ecosystem. In 2020, we won Microsoft Partner of the Year. 2019, being a Citrix Platinum, we've done a lot of projects with Citrix on Azure, and a lot of 2019 and 2018 were the culmination of that work. So in 2019, we won Citrix Cloud Partner of the Year for all of the work that we were doing inside of healthcare. And in 2018, Coretech won Citrix Innovation Award for partners for work that we did with Wolverine Worldwide. From an awards perspective, we've made the Inc. 5000 list, as well as top 100 IT service companies in the US, top 100 Michigan companies, best and brightest, as you would expect somebody of those accolades. Coretech builds all of our solutions around what we call our smart managed service offerings. So as we look across managed services, we have solution sets built around the smart cloud, smart workspace, and smart enterprise. And the smart cloud being able to modernize your cloud native approach and cloud journey with the agility for all your workloads and applications in cloud native environments. Smart workplace is everything we do around EUC and end user compute strategy, building up an identity, being able to adopt Office 365, M365 capabilities, as well as all your desktop and points of presence that you would need to do from a great user experience. And then our smart enterprise solutions, really adopting a cloud right approach, knowing not all workloads will go natively to the cloud, some will remain on-premise, and managing those with the best solutions and partnerships that Coretech has to offer. So really excited to announce this and show you kind of the material that we see our customers asking for, and really would love to engage with you for a free half-day hybrid cloud workshop where we can give you Azure-based estimates and solution architecture planning session. We have Azure credits that we can give up to 15,000 as part of this hybrid half-day workshop. We can build up an HCI solution comparison and strategy if you're looking at different solutions on how to best adopt Azure, as well as a cloud economic assessment. Obviously, being Coretech Azure focused, we'd love to build your hybrid strategy using Microsoft in any way you can. Just reach out to us at inquiry@coretech.com or at www.coretech.com. Thanks, Kevin. I'll take it back to you for some questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Brian, for running through the presentation here. I know we've gone a little bit over on time as mentioned, but For anybody who has submitted your questions through the Q&A system, we will be following up with you to get those answers to you. Also, if you're watching this on demand and have any questions you would like to submit, you can always submit those via inquiry@coretech.com or send those directly to us at marketing@coretech.com as well. Me and the team keep those two inboxes pretty well monitored, and we'll certainly make sure that your questions make it to Brian, and we'll get responses to you quickly there. So thanks everybody for who tuned in today, and for anybody who's watching this webinar on demand. We'll catch you during the next Tech Tuesday webinar, and we hope everyone has a fantastic day. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.